Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154 for our first video release of 2023. Today we're in the VK3002D. It's a tier 7 German medium tank, and in terms of the holy trinity of everything you want out of a tank, it does have the firepower and mobility rather down pat. In fact, in terms of firepower and mobility, it's certainly amongst the best in tier for tier 7 medium tanks. Firepower is over 2,000 damage per minute thanks to the 88mm L56. That's common to a lot of tier 6 German heavy tanks, and it was one of the intermediate guns on the Tigers. The mobility is also one of the best in show, 60 km per hour forward speed, 20 km per hour reverse, and quite a high power to weight ratio as well, so you'll be able to realise that speed quite efficiently. Unfortunately, the armour is a little bit lacking on it. You have 125mm on the face, and while your front is quite well sloped, outside of a poking action, it's not going to be bouncing all that much. Now, our story today on Arlenberg actually starts on the western flank, and it's thanks to combat footage brought to us by Lord Sylphia that we've been able to bring you this part of the story. Now, they're in the CS44. They've done an initial push forward, but they've run into 5 enemy tanks, and that's left them somewhat outnumbered on this flank. Lord Sylphia has bouncing a shot from the Comet, sensibly deciding to pull away. The friendly Jackson has decided to abandon the flank completely. Actually, they've decided, even though we're part of the back line, that we don't want to be a part of that fight. But Lord Sylphia is somewhat emboldened by the fact that the enemy team here haven't decided to press their numerical advantage here. I guess maybe they weren't aware of it, but nonetheless, Lord Sylphia pushing forward and hammering the Comet with the 90mm gun. There's two schools of thought here with the guns of CS44. You do have a 100mm gun, but it's a little bit less accurate. The handling is not as good. So on the balance of things, the 90mm gun, I guess for a lot of players, would provide a much better balance, a much more comfortable gun to play with. Now we can see here that Lord Sylphia is pulling the shots a little bit. They probably had ample opportunity to put a shot into the VK306018, but given that they're outnumbered, they really want to focus on getting enemy guns out of the game and just evening the score on this particular flank. Even though they're eating shots from VK306018, it was probably more important at that point in time to secure the kill. On the western side of the castle, we've got Challenger and Cromwell facing off against an enemy Comet and 40 TP. Challenger having taken quite a beating here, but they're able to knock out the enemy Comet. This just leaves 40 TP, and it's going to be one-shottable to the Challenger. The Challenger's got the 32-pound gun, and 40 TP sort of slewing around. It's looking for the Cromwell, it's looking for the Challenger, but in the confusion, Challenger manages to knock it out first. So Lord Sylphia makes their run on the VK306018. They appear to be joined by the Challenger as well. Penetrating hit there, and Challenger's due to follow up, probably a little timid. I probably would have pushed that a little bit more aggressively so that I could shoot while I knew the VK was on the reload, but I guess with 67 hit points, you can't blame them for being a little bit overly cautious, but there was nothing left on the VK306018 there, and they've gone back to the garage thanks to Lord Sylphia. Challenger pushes on IKV 65 Alt 2, which is one-shottable for the 32-pounder on Challenger. They send it back to the garage, but they are promptly knocked out by artillery in turn. Now, those sorts of engagements are practically game-winning. Like, the enemy went in with 5 tanks, they came out with 0. The friendlies went in with 3 tanks, they came out with 2. And these sorts of imbalances are really what drives what makes a game a win or a loss. Effective roleplay is also important, where heavy tanks acting as forward scouts are likely to come a cropper, as this Tiger 131 discovered taking multiple fires from multiple directions. For our part, we pushed the eastern flank in our VK3002D, and we did so with a bit of a job to do, specifically Block 2 for the Chimera Personal Campaign. Now, the mission objectives here are to cause 5 critical hits to enemy vehicles, while also dealing 2,000 hit points of damage. While there was no requirement to actually win the battle, we did have to survive in order to get the honours condition. Now, things are moving a little bit slowly for us here on the eastern flank of Arlenberg, as we've discovered 2 enemy light tanks. Now, they're going to have to be worn down and or destroyed before we can really progress any further. Speaking of progress, we've made our first step onto completing Bloc-2.2, and that's down to causing a critical hit on AMX 12T and also drawing our first bit of blood there. But there's a hell of a lot more to go. Type 64 is giving us some assistance on the top of the hill while the enemy T52 probes the bottom of the hill. We're also aided by an MT25 that's working the saddle of the next ridge along, although they do appear to have attracted a bit of artillery fire. Type 64 goes for the shot, draws fire from AMX 12T, unfortunately a bit of a swing and a miss from us. The 88mm German armament not quite living up to its reputation here. It's represented in World of Tanks to be a little bit on the derpy side, 0.36 meters per 100 meters as a base dispersion dispersion, and dynamic dispersion is not that great. You do have to let this gun dial in before you take your shots. Speaking of dialing in, that's exactly what we're going to do to the arse end of T50-2 and have left it one-shottable. Now, we weren't actually spotted for having taken that shot, so we'll try again with the soft cover here serving us quite well. T50-2 has gone dark, and not sure if that was a miss or if they'd repaired in time, but that did not result in a kill for us. Type 64 has elected to open up the angle though, and they have been able to secure that kill. Now, we were spotted on our follow-up shot there, and it's possibly from the AMX-12T. We have drawn fire from the enemy Hellcat, who's looks like they had a intermediate 75mm gun. They weren't able to penetrate us, but the enemy AMX-12T did manage to find purchase. Now, we can see we are leveraging the mobility here of VK3002D to push in here. MT25 also racing forward to get under the enemy guns on the ridgeline. Type 64, though, they're out for blood. They're looking for another kill here, chasing down AMX-12T. They're caught in a little bit of a duel, and Type 64 does manage to knock them out, but in the process they've drawn the attention of the enemy gun line at the back. This appears to be represented by two AC4 experimentals. Now, their 17-pounder guns are absolutely singing away, and there's really not an abundance of hard cover there for Type 64. They're in some real trouble here, and one of the AC4s ends up sending them back to the garage. We've made the dash across the map in the meantime. We're trying to get under the gun line and around the side of these AC4s. MT25 had done so as well. They'd drawn a bit of fire from the Hellcat, caused it to take a few hits from spotting damage and enabling us to seal the deal with the kill, and also make a couple more points of mission progression on the damage and the critical hits. The enemy AC4 is not letting us take this flank without a fight though, and in spite of us using their fallen comrade's body, they're still managing to land their shells. We're having to dial in quite carefully. We do manage to penetrate it through the face, of course armor not being a strong point of AC4 experimental. And most maps in World of Tanks have got three key points of interest. We saw the western flank brought under control rather convincingly. We have the eastern flank under contest, and that just leaves the mid that we haven't really covered yet. Stridsman 74 has decided to go toe-to-toe against the enemy 45 TP. A bit mismatched here, and unfortunately they are sent back to the garage, but their spotting efforts have been able to cause a lot of successive hits to 45 TP, T29 moving up the center to inflict damage, but it's actually the IKV 65 Alt 2 that's been able to develop the crossfire and knock out the enemy Polish heavy tank. T29s are squaring off in the mid, but it is the friendly T29 that has the advantage, both in terms of hit points and also being able to use a little bit of hull down cover. There's a swing and a miss from the enemy, and that proves absolutely fatal, with the friendly sending the enemy T29 packing. Having the stock turret and the stock gun hasn't hurt the fortunes of the friendly Tiger 1 either. They've gone on a bit of an artillery hunt here and send the M44 back to its maker. Now, that's actually the same gun that we're running on VK3002D, unfortunately for us. That's its top gun. We don't get the KWK-43 as the Tiger 1 will eventually get. Now, we've advanced rather cautiously up through the tree line because we didn't want happening to us what unfortunately happened to the MT25. They've just been absolutely nuked by the enemy Su-152. Now, we think we're safe tucked away from the Su-152. Unfortunately, we do get a bit of a reality check, but the Su-152 is not carrying the 152mm gun. It looks like it was a hit from a 122mm gun, but still has left us in a bit of a dire hit point position. Survival is still key for the honest completion of this mission, but we're still short on the primary conditions. We still need to cause one more critical hit to the enemy team, and we're still short by about 500 damage. There's about 2 or 3 shots from the 88mm gun. Now, fortunately, we didn't have to hunt down those hit points immediately. Well, all of them. AC4 experimental charging in, but unfortunately no critical hits there. Enemy team is looking pretty slim at the moment though. Fortunately, nice juicy arse end of Su-152. We get the kill, but still not the critical hit. Now, there's only 2 enemy vehicles from which we can source the remaining hit points and critical hit. The M44, of course, has gone down to the Tiger 1. We are drawing fire from the AC4 experimental, so we know where it is. We're going to line our tank up, and here we go. We've got the T-bone, and that is our final kill. We've managed to meet our requirement for the damage, we managed to meet our requirement for the critical hits, and the ram didn't end up killing us, so we've got the honest condition as well. So let's take a look at those results. So in addition to the mission, we've come away with quite a few medals. Level 1 Mastery Badge probably being the most exciting of them. We're placed in the top 5% of tankers by experience in VK3002D that week. The Steel Wall medal I'm a little bit confused about, where to receive that medal you need to have received the most hits. It needs to be at least 11 out of any player on the team, and the total potential damage needs to be at least 1,000 hit points. That doesn't quite gel with the block figures that's been presented here, so I don't know, maybe the game knows something that I don't here. The Hand of God medal we picked up, and we know we deserved that one because we've survived and won the battle, having received damage from at least 4 different enemy vehicles. We picked up the Spotter medal, where our charge into the enemy A-line has enabled us to collect quite a bit of spotting assist, over 1,200 in this particular case. We've got the Bruiser medal for causing damage to enemy vehicle modules or crew members at least 5 times in the course of the battle. Of course, that was the aim of the game with Bloc-2.2. We picked up the Duelist medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that have caused damage to us in turn, the Fighter medal for destroying 4 to 5 enemy vehicles in the battle, and the Fire for Effect medal where we've caused damage equivalent to at least our hit points, in this case over 2,100 hit points of damage inflicted on the enemy team. Having a look to the team scores, we have placed top in experience here, but a special mention to Lord Sylphia in CS44. They were absolutely instrumental on their flank. They went in with 3 tanks, they came out with 2 tanks, while the enemy went in with 5 tanks and came out with none. So an absolutely game-winning effect that Lord Sylphia and others had on the battle overall. The T-29 as well, with over 2,100 hit points of damage inflicted, a key contribution made in the middle of the map. I had hoped to get their perspective on the battle, but I think they thought I was a bit of a troll or something when I was asking them for a copy of the replay. So anyway, I'll leave that with them, but I'll try and shoot him a link, and we'll see how that one goes. On the enemy team, it was a 45 TP that was rather besieged there. That's placed top by experience, but there's only so much you're going to be able to do when the world around you is crumbling to ash and ruin. The AC4 experimental also having a pronounced effect on the team, also presenting a very effective gun line, but unfortunately collectively they weren't quite able to carry the game today. Looking to the detailed report, this was a mildly profitable game for us, coming away with 30,000 credits in profit. Having survived the battle, we kept the repair bill to a minimum. We weren't firing any premium ammunition at all in the course of this battle as well, and that kept the ammo bill down. So we turned a profit. We came away with a Chimera Personal Campaign mission with honours. All in all, I'd say it was a good day. And if you had a good day that you'd like to share with the community, then swing by our Discord and drop your replays on the submission platform. As you've probably seen, we're taking a bit of a different direction with our Twitch. We are making it quite a regular habit of not only showcasing community replays, but also getting the player responsible in to talk through what was going through their mind and down their barrel live on Twitch. And then some of those were even able to convert for YouTube for a bit of cinematic magic. So hopefully you've caught a little bit of that, and again, if you'd like to be a part of that, then swing by our Discord and drop your replay on the submission platform. In the meantime, happy tanking, and take care out there.